Think you've got what it takes to launch a successful YouTube channel? This is Robert Manni, host of Guys TV, and this week my special guest is executive producer and host of Second Act TV, Silke Schwarzkopf. I've also got metaphysical teacher Bill McKenna, and it all starts right here, right now on Guys TV. You can also catch me on KCAA Radio here in Southern California and Guys Radio, my worldwide podcast. Guys TV, Guys Radio, thanks for your support. Okay, Guys Radio, my favorite portion of the show when I interview some really cool people, guests, friends, teachers, people have information to share that may help you live your best life. So here we are. I've got Silke Schwarzkopf. She's the executive producer and host of the very successful Second Act TV YouTube channel. It's skewed to people over 50, kind of in their second half of life. And even doing something like a YouTube channel, that entails taking on a new challenge, if you will, for somebody in their second half of life. So I want to have Silke come back to the show and talk to us about kind of how you get set up, how you deal with YouTube, how has she become such a success, and what seems like an overnight sensation has taken years because she has all these production capabilities and she had to work for a long time in traditional business. But anyway, my special guest, my friend, my acquaintance, my collaborator, and I'm a frequent guest on Second Act TV, but Silke Schwarzkopf, the executive producer, the lead talent, and the host of the very successful Second Act TV on YouTube. Welcome back to Guys Radio.
Well, thank you, Robert. I appreciate that introduction. I did good.
That's quite a mouthful there. So thank you for bearing with me. But what I really wanted to do is, and we were talking about this before we got on the air, is that, there's two aspects to getting a YouTube channel up and running. One is because your show is Second Act TV, there's the over 50 angle to it. And a lot of people who are over 50 kind of migrating out of the corporate world are starting YouTube channels and other startup ventures, if you will. And then also it's just for anybody who is interested in doing a YouTube channel. What's interesting is that I was reading that there's over 35 million YouTube channels. That was about 6 months ago. So I'm sure there's at least 40 now. And people watch for an average of 4 minutes. So the way YouTube started way back when was people were looking at, how do I fix that pipe under the sink? How do I change my carburetor? And things like that. And now it's become an entertainment platform, but it is search driven. So for you, from moving from your corporate production experience, how did you decide that YouTube was the way to go? And what were some of the initial steps you had to take to get started in setting up Second Act TV?
Great question. Well, the way I started, or how I got to YouTube, I won't go into all the details, but it was really by default. As a producer, I originally wanted to do a TV show. And, I was basically turned down by the networks is the Reader's Digest version. It's kind of a funny story, but not for this segment. I discovered YouTube through the younger people or even starting a channel. I actually met someone that was helping me on a consulting basis who worked for YouTube. So I learned a lot there, and it probably cut my time in becoming successful down significantly, because what I'm noticing, especially as you said on the top of the show here, people that are coming out of corporate, maybe later in life starting this, there's some things about production for YouTube that's much different than production for anything else. And it's interesting that you said the average view time is 4 minutes. I guess that does really good for our channel, because our average view time is almost 10 minutes.
No, that's
and that's largely as a result of people like you. You have, great guests on. But anyway, I digress. The entertainment versus search driven is one of the big things I think that people who are starting new YouTube channels don't realize, especially because it does appear to be an entertainment platform. Unless you have a name, like your celebrity, or you have something that people search for you're not going to get discovered unless you're offering a solution to something. Like you said, how to fix a tire, how this. Well, in our case, it's how to date over 50, how to online date, how to write a profile, etc. Relationship dating and relationship happens to be our number one keyword ranking. So that's a big lesson, I think. And I see other people starting who are incredible, producers. And I don't think anybody's ever going to see it because people aren't searching for what they're producing. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It's interesting then that you've managed to, and YouTube is this, brands and platforms have their own organic, lives. So YouTube has changed from how do I do this to there is some entertainment. In fact, I was watching there's a new movie out called Nightmare Alley, I think, with Bradley Cooper. And it was on one of the Netflix or something like that. And I watched it, and it was really good. And then I was reading about it and said, oh, that was a remake. Check out the 1947 version with Tyrone Powell. And I couldn't find it anywhere except for YouTube. And I don't know if they're even supposed to have it on there, but there's a lot of stuff on there. So people are all over YouTube. So I guess my question is really, when you have an audience that would be predominantly, 40 plus, let's say, so even if they're not 50, they're heading in that direction. And YouTube is, for some of them, new, whereas for younger people, I'm not saying young specifically, but people in their 40s, they're all over YouTube. But the 50 plus crowd may be just getting into YouTube. Have you found that there has been a migration towards more and more of your target group coming onto YouTube and then searching for things like what you have, and then bang, there you are?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's a short answer. Yes, there is I think the statistics even support that. I don't have them handy, but that the 50 plus, just like in anything else, is growing significantly on YouTube. What's good about that is that our demographic has, so when you monetize, when they put ads on your show, it's called a CPA. They value the time spent listening of your demographic. And we have one of the highest, I don't mean second act TV, but our demographic period, the 50 plus, is a very valuable demographic. So if you can figure out a way to tap into that, then you have a real chance at having a great second act when it comes to a career on YouTube.
Okay, let's take a couple of steps back, Silke. And my special guest on Guys Radio, Silke Schwarzkopf. She's executive producer and host of the very successful and very fun Second Act TV YouTube channel. So when you got started, what were your what was the toolbox? What were your considerations? How did you get yourself up and running for your first episode?
Yeah, another great question. Well, as I said, we started out thinking TV, and we had I was really lucky to have some of my people in production, come on and help me produce, some location shoots. And that I quickly realized that was not manageable. It's just not, it's just never going to, you can't monetize that. Unless you just have all kinds of money and you're not in it for, to actually build a business. So I quickly learned that I had become totally self-sufficient. So at, how old was I, 53 or something, I actually learned to edit in the professional edit system, which wasn't that hard once you just get into it. But you have to be self-sufficient. You have to be able to, have lighting, have audio, and, a good connection. And in my case, the strategy is, recording interviews where I have access to people, content experts, from all over the world that can speak to, the pain points that my audience is looking for. So it's just setting up that infrastructure, which is relatively simple, but yeah, you have to have good lighting, good audio, and a good camera.
Okay, so when you got going and you did a couple of different shows in different areas, and you and I have talked about this, like, our generation now is starting to think about things like longevity and, doing things like meditation, spirituality, and all this stuff. And yet the highest rated shows, of course, are sex. Was that an eye opener for you? And of course, you got to go which way the trend's going. You got to tap into that. So of course, you've had me as your guest on the show many times, but
yeah, you've really contributed to the success. You have. Yeah, we have, oh my God, thousands of views.
And maybe that's because I'm given the kind of the guy's guy version of the peek behind the tent, and I wrote the book, The Guy's Guide to Love. So there's a lot about men for women, how kind of we really are and how we roll, and it's real. So maybe that's why. So women could say, hey, this guy that sounds, he's like a regular guy. And
Yeah.
guys could say, yeah, okay, and guys are never going to really all like some other guy, but they'll probably say, yeah, okay, he's right. So how did you, when that's just me, but when you're dealing with your other guests, how did you kind of take the temperature, see what resonates? What were some of the surprises? How have you said, oh, we've got to go this way with the show and this type of guest and expand from here and there? And starting with, how did you find your first guest?
Oh, my first guest, that's funny, Barry Gold. He just contacted me. He is a comedy writer, television comedy writer, and he started the website divorcedover50.com. I thought, well, that's, and that's really, the show kind of evolved, the evolution, I should say, of Second Act TV has really been what I went through, but, not that I wanted to make it all about me. But when you're working, when you're the only one working, you kind of, those are the ideas that come up is what you're going through. And my first part was, divorce after 50. I thought I was crazy for leaving a 25-year marriage over 50. And then I find out it's a phenomenon. It's called gray divorce. So I kind of fell into that, with Barry. And then we did a lot on gray divorce, because there'll be people listening today. Well, I never heard of gray divorce. Well, it's a thing. And then I found that also in doing more, concentrating on that and on saving marriages versus not getting a divorce, that, well, people really were interested in starting new relationships. How do you date? How do you go online? How do you do a profile? Blah, blah, blah. So I looked for content experts in those areas. I just kind of searched on, online and see who wrote what, what kind of following they had, and just called them and said, hey, I'm doing, I'm doing this. You want to play TV? And people like Barry and Sandy Weiner, who's a big dating coach, Lisa Copeland, people like that they really supported me early on when I had like 500 subscribers. My goal was to get to 1,000. I mean, that would be so cool to get to 1,000 subscribers.
When can you monetize on YouTube for those out there who are considering launching their own channels?
1,000 subscribers.
So what happens? You hit 1,000 subscribers, and then because you can lose one and then pick up two or whatever. So does YouTube send you something and say, hey, this is how it works?
Well, the guidelines, the community guidelines, or, they have just, I think you Google monetization, or, there's all kinds of
but do they reach out to you?
Did YouTube? No, not.
So you hit your 1,000 and then you go to them and like raise your hand.
Yes, you monetize, you click monetize, and and then they click, I don't know, they start something.
Well, how does that work for those out there considering this? So you hit 1,000, you hit monetize, and what happens?
Well, when you upload your videos, there's different settings, and the monetization setting, you can't click, it won't go on if you haven't been approved to be monetized. And then once you are, then every month you get an accounting of what, what you earn, so to speak. And it's very humbling at first. It's pennies for a view. So you really, the key to making it, having some sort of income that can actually support something, is a lot of views.
Are there other, and by the way, my special guest is Silke Schwarzkopf, executive producer and star of Second Act TV. We're talking about launching a YouTube channel, as Silke has done so successfully. I jumped into the game late. I've had most of my listeners, viewers or consumers, they listen to the podcast, they listen to us on KCAA radio in Southern California, and the podcast is in 101 countries. I figured I might as well go on YouTube. So last year I put us on YouTube, and we start that slow, steady climb. And now it's kind of happening. So I've always watched Silke because she's YouTube is so searchable that I have found, and also watching Silke's guests, like, oh, there's a guest about sex that's going to pop. Or I do something where I had somebody who was an numerologist, and I
Uh-huh.
figured, I don't know, and boom, he pops because it's something so
Mhm.
specific. So two questions. One, how did you kind of find the topics that were really going to pop besides sex? And then, are there other milestones after 1,000 where you can start to make more money on YouTube? Sorry, it's two separate questions.
No, no, so, okay, the milestones, I think there really aren't any that I'm aware of that make any difference directly with YouTube. I think when you hit 100,000, they send you something
Okay.
like a certificate. But what happens is when you get to certain subscriber levels, and I can't speak to the exact numbers, but you start to be known as an influencer. Like right now, every day I get something from an agency. You've been identified as one of the top influencers, in my demographic. And I want to be real honest, but I mean, my numbers are impressive for what I've done and for our demographic, but compared to some other channels, the millions, I mean, I'm considered a small channel, but it's a channel that's starting to get noticed. And that's what's exciting. So in terms of the monetization, it's more what once you're out there, what that means to other people who want to utilize you to support their brands or sell something. So I'm just starting that now, evaluating that, and I'm going to be real careful about it because my viewers really, they value what I say. So I'm going to be very careful, to what I attach myself to or not. And I'm sorry, what was the other part of your question? The
It was
guest?
about how do you kind of decide, okay, this category is hot, I'll go for
Yes.
more guests. And it's strictly by numbers, I guess, right? You see what
The
pops and
well,
what doesn't. Like sex does better than meditation for you.
Yes, for me. And I'm trying to figure that out, whether it's just because somehow, okay, so somehow our channel, dating over 50, if you put that in right now, if you put in dating over 50, finding love after 50, guaranteed some of our videos will come up, guaranteed, and probably some of ours, yours and mine. uh, and I got that organically. I don't even know how I got search ranked because people pay a lot of money to get that. Okay, this is a good point. One way to be successful, you have to be consistent. You have to upload or post, release a video at least once a week or twice a week or maybe once every 2 weeks. I don't know what the sweet spot is there, but it has to be consistent, and that's how YouTube starts noticing that, hey, here's somebody who's serious about what they're doing.
How
And I
about
think
the,
that's
Mhm.
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought.
No, and then once you do that, uh, the way that I found or decide on topics is one, by comments, what people are asking about. And so I know I'm going to get at least some views. You were in advertising market research, one opinion equals 1,000. So if one person has that, then, there's likely 1,000 others that do as well. And then you can look at Google Trends, what are people searching out there for? And how does that fit with the content that you're providing? And that's why you and I have done several shows on surveys, on trends,
Right.
stuff that's being measured that people are interested in. And then we discuss how that, do we agree? Do we disagree? How does that relate to our demographic? And people find those are the shows that they pop, especially when it comes to sex.
Of course. The milestones. So to become an influencer, how do you become an influencer then? Is there a certain number of subscribers that deems you an influencer? How does that work?
I honestly, I don't know.
Okay.
That's the honest answer. What I've experienced is once I hit 25,000 subscribers is when I started noticing that I'm getting emails from brands, from individual companies. Lately, something must have happened when we went over 40,000 because I'm getting bigger, like big digital marketing agencies are contacting me now and said, you've been identified. And I don't know how. I was a media buyer, Robert, just like you. I was in advertising. I was great at my job, made a lot of money, that whole world has changed, and I don't understand it. I need to learn more about it. And that would be a recommendation I would make, is understand, as I'm learning now, how that works. If you really want to use this, want to build this channel to, make a living, or pay for something anyway.
Biggest mistake you've made?
Biggest mistake? You mean for YouTube?
Yes, YouTube.
I'm just kidding. What's the biggest mistake? Probably not utilizing social media the way that some of the big YouTubers do. I get so sick of it. I was on Instagram, then I got hacked. I don't like Instagram. I don't like the posing. It drives me crazy. Well, the other one, I did not concentrate this whole time, put a lot of concentration on building a mailing list. And I really think an email list is probably the biggest support to endeavors such as this that you need to have. And I really need to put my focus there.
Okay. What would be your steps to do that? Would you rent lists or create your own list?
No, I don't. The only thing that's really valuable is if you build your own. I would need to have some sort of offer to. I mean, if give me your email and I'll send you this free thing or something. It's all the stuff that I really don't like to do. Like if somebody asks me for that, I don't want to give them my email. So I've had some hesitancy in going there, if you will. Yeah. And I don't know if it's right or wrong. It's just, I haven't done it. So that's probably a mistake.
All right. Last question. Best piece of advice for those considering launching their own YouTube channel?
Well, one, why are you doing it? First of all, if it's just something, that you want to have fun with, that you want to get some feedback on, and, just something to do, which a lot of people do, and that's perfectly fine. That's one thing. But if you want to grow a channel that's going to grow, that's going to produce monetization, etc., it takes a lot of dedication, and it takes a lot of consistency, and you need to produce programming that's easy to digest, if you will. It has to be watchable. The video quality has to be decent. I mean, I look back at some of my early stuff. I mean, I learned a lot there too, but audio has to be good. Video has to be good. Lighting has, that needs to be good. And then figure out what your view, how long can you actually hold the attention of the viewers that you're trying to target. My sweet spot appears to be about 15 to 20 minutes. And that gives me the average view duration. But there is, as much fun as it might sound, and it is fun, it takes dedication and consistency.
Got it. Okay. Well, you've done it and you're doing it, and there's a lot more to come. And thank you so much for inviting me on your show. And I'm so pleased that you're here, Silke, on Guys Radio. We'll do it again. Great to see you, everybody. Silke Schwarzkopf, thanks for being on Guys Radio.
Thank you, Robert. Always have fun with you.
If you're enjoying the guests and content we bring you each and every week on Guys Radio and TV, please support us by subscribing to our channels. Thank you.